Hi, I'm Hidden, and it's been a while. Things have happened, and I'm simply choosing not to touch it. Instead, we are going to focus on something less egregious and less mind-numbing, which is Transformers autism. Those who share spaces with me know that I recently have gotten back into my Transformers Prime obsession, and one road joined another, and suddenly we're at Hobby Lobby buying model kits that are a third of my paycheck. I also recently was fortunate enough to spend a long time with my husband in December, and whilst in the US had access to multiple stores that carry Transformer model kits, something Germany can't really provide for me. So I went to Hobby Lobby, not sponsored by the way, as they had a 40% discount and picked up the only two Transformers kits they had, a G1 Optimus Prime and an IDW Rodimus Prime by Furray Toys, which I'm pretty sure is Flame Toys? The later of which you'll actually see me build in the background here. I immediately got to work and assembled Optimus over the course of a few days with very lackluster instruments, and while I was doing so, I went, man, I sure wish somebody told me more about this hobby before I spent $30 on this. It's me. I'm someone. I will tell you more about this. As you can gather from the title, today you, random citizen, and I will have a long winded yap session about whether or not model kits are for you, from a beginner's perspective. So let's get into it. Alright, let's start with what most of us look at before we buy anything. The price. Often our ability to join into a hobby is entirely dependent on whether or not it's affordable to do so, and if we can indulge in all that we need. Tools, materials, and so on and so forth. And a model kit is no different. Apart from the actual kit, there's also materials and tools to be taken into consideration. I personally find you need no more than an X-Acto knife and 2 pliers. One plier is to cut the pieces loose, the other I like using to press pieces together, but it's entirely optional considering your teeth could work just as well if you don't mind the marks. More on that later. An X-Acto knife and extra blades run you around $4. Mine at Hobby Lobby ran me $4.49 US, and a set of 3 small pliers ran me $9.99 US. Keep in mind, you could pick up only one plier, which sits you at around $5.49 USD. Personally, I think getting things in a set is more bang for your buck, but still. So great, you got your tools. But what if you want to be super serious about your hobby and get all the optional gear too? Small screwdrivers, files, pens, and so on. Well, don't worry, our friend Amazon offers kits that include all that starting from roughly $13 USD, but they don't include any pliers, meaning that will have to be an extra purchase. Awesome, you're all set now. So let's get into the model kits and their prices, because boy do they differ. Mine, both Rodimus and Optimus, were originally $45.99 USD, and I got them 30% discounted. But let's just play with the idea I got them at the original pricing. Optimus I built with 2 pliers, my sanity, and an X-Acto knife, meaning I would sit around $60 USD plus taxes for a single model kit. It kept me busy for multiple days because I kept taking breaks, but I could have finished it in around 3 hours or so, like I did Rodimus. On a side note, before I get into describing my experience here, if you want a model kit but you don't want to use tools, that's chill. There's tiny YOLO Park kits who run you around $12 USD that'll give you the fun of assembly with pre-cut pieces, or the Blockies line who run you around $6.99 for a tiny guy. Whilst I think both of them are great, they're, well, small? Both of them roughly the size of your palm, and they don't really scratch that model kit itch for me, as the only assembly necessary is clicking pre-cut pieces together. But back to the model kit experience. My first issue came when I looked into more characters to get that were actual model kits. Suddenly I was met with a Shockwave model kit for almost $180 USD, or an IDW Megatron kit that ran me $70 USD respectively. YOLO Park temporarily saved me with their Optimus Prime model for the last night, whose pre-order ran me around $60. Even a brand whose prices I had seen before came out with an almost $65 USD model of RC, and for a moment, I had to sit back and wonder if this hobby was really something I could feasibly keep pursuing. I'm not talking about model every week, but I also didn't want to settle for cheaper models of characters I didn't care for. I'll only get small pre-cut ones. I understand that officially licensed model kits rather than third or fourth party kits would have the official sign of, yeah, overcharge your customers, but even looking at YOLO Park kits, I was suddenly met with hesitation. $50, sometimes with shipping on top, meant groceries for a week. Was I willing to sacrifice that for a kit that keeps me busy for maybe a day or so, and that'll end up sitting in my shelf with little value to gain over time? Whilst I can make an argument for pre-assembled figures or even action figures in general that slowly gain some value over time based on accessibility, making the same argument for a self-assembled little guy with all the marks and scratches he could have seems a lot less feasible. And so my personal verdict on this is, as a beginner, if you can afford it, Slay! Try out that model kit. If you hesitate and are a starving artist though, trying out a hobby you could end up hating for a minimum of 60 USD, tools and patience included, doesn't seem the move. I'd suggest waiting for a discount or picking up unbuilt kits secondhand rather than wasting a bunch of money and time for something you'll end up not finding joy in. I'm going to talk about possible alternatives later though. I personally think building a model kit doesn't come with a trial and error period, as I feel I have to commit to a kit once I buy it based on the price alone. Alright, you spent that 45 USD on the kit and now you're committed. You have your tools, you are ready, and you get into building. How does it work? Is it easy? Is it accessible? I feel like I can answer that with a sort of resounding yes. Each kit I tried came with colored instructions that show you the pieces necessary for each step. Each sheet of pieces is marked with a letter and a number usually. The pieces itself are also marked with numbers. So the instructions will tell you something along the lines of take piece number 3 from sheet A2 and so on. I liked assembling the pieces first and then sticking them together. The instructions will then tell you how to put pieces together and sometimes also in what order. Here's where I really wish there was some text. There's been multiple moments where I wasn't super sure which way or when pieces were meant to go together, which led to me having to try and pry, and I mean pry, pieces that I already put together apart again, which sometimes was almost impossible with almost my hands due to the small size, and led me to using my teeth more often than not. It's super frustrating and could easily have been avoided if the instructions had a single sentence on them just telling me, press down, or this is the front. Frustratingly enough, there actually are some steps that had those instructions, but they weren't on every. Now, I am willing to chuck that up to my lack of using eyes and my lack of experience, so I'm pretty sure experienced model kit builders are pointing and laughing at me right now. However, I feel this is worthy bringing up because it might be a cause of frustration for others too. The next thing I've got is kind of dependent on how good you are with an X-Acto knife. So when you cut your pieces loose with your pliers, you'll have little pieces of plastic sticking out. Those are called bridges, and more often than not, it will become necessary for you to cut those down very carefully with your X-Acto to ensure that the pieces will either fit together or your model looks nice. I struggled with the force necessary and the angling for a hot minute, leading to some scratches and cuts where there weren't meant to be one. Don't sweat it though, your first model doesn't have to be perfect, mine sure ain't. But I will admit, I also acquired a few cuts from holding tiny pieces and attempting to whittle a bridge down, or underestimating the force at which the blade comes my way when a thicker piece finally gives in. Be careful. I used gloves for a short time, but found they impaired my ability to control my strength and hold tiny pieces, so I soon gave up again. Talking about tiny pieces, be so careful. Cutting them loose or cutting their bridges can cause them to fling across your desk, and bestie, you don't want to lose that 2mm long piece in your gray carpet, I am telling you. From experience, be gentle. Hold piece like chicken nugget. You'll be building your kit bit by bit, usually starting with the torso and hips before moving to arms and then legs and then the extra pieces at the end. Putting the pieces together proved another challenge for me. There's quite a bit of force necessary clicking joints into place, and with little pieces attached to a model, you'll sometimes accidentally break a piece open again or lose some accessories. I struggled mostly because I was too scared to actually apply force. I didn't want to break a $50 kit, but trust me, you need it. Listen to me. Jam that arm in there. It'll be scary, it'll hurt your fingers, but it will fit. Assembly is also when you notice if you put pieces together wrong, because they won't fit or align the way they need to. Then it's back to the drawing board and seeing what you fucked up. Once assembled, you can exchange the extras or push your little guy, the most fun part. There's a certain kind of satisfaction seeing it all come together and be settled as one big piece. My conclusion on this part is kind of simple. If you're frustration prone, hate fiddling with small things, or don't want to spend hours in a project, first of all, why did you buy a model kit? But also, second of all, this isn't the hobby for you. Pieces can be incredibly small, and there are, in most cases, no extras. If you lose one, you best find it again, because otherwise, queen, that model won't come together. I found myself dropping tiny pieces into Corbett and having to find them again, which halted my creative process. Once again, I'm pretty sure better handling comes with experience and time, but if you're easily frustrated, this might be a reason for you to just toss the kit aside and find something else to do. If you're fine with all what I've mentioned above, go for it. I found something incredibly soothing in sitting and just slowly putting pieces together. It's a sort of puzzle with more steps, and there can be such joy in seeing pieces come together, slowly assembling into an articulated figure that you build. It can be such fun, frustration aside, so I would recommend it to anyone who wants to try their hand at handiwork that really requires attention. Alright, I got your attention. You want a model kit, but you don't even know where to start. I got you. So while US folk will have an easy time walking into a Target, Hobby Lobby, or even sometimes a Walmart to pick one up, or to order online on their website respectively, there's a few websites I want to highlight for international folk. The first is showsthestory.com. They carry a vast variety of Transformers, but also Warhammer figures and kits, including pre-orders. Their process is pretty easy, allowing you to put down a deposit and paying for the full thing within 2 weeks once available. They ship pretty much everywhere, for a price, and have a large inventory to choose from. The second is Big Bad Toy Store, who, aside from Transformers, also offers Marvel, DC, and Star Wars figures, and more. Once again, they do ship internationally, and offer that you can text them should your country not be in their shipping list. And the last one I shall yap about is tfsafari.com. From the name, you can infer they're heavily Transformer-based, and they do ship internationally as well. And now, we get to the part that might just have me murdered by the entire model kit and reviewer community. But hear me out. If you find none of the sites can offer you a kit in your price range and you really want to try this out but can't commit to a $50 kit, AliExpress. Okay, hear me out. AliExpress and other similar sites offer knockoffs of knockoffs and whatnot. Usually, they sit at a third of what a normal kit might charge you and offer the same experience. Whilst they might lack in quality in some places, if you really want to see if this hobby is for you and you are okay with a bit of a wait time, this is a feasible option. A side tangent, when I first wanted to try making D&D dice, I did order a 6 USD mold off AliExpress over ordering a $120 mold off of Etsy, just to see if I even liked or found joy in the process or even wanted to repeat it, and so on. If I hated the hobby and I was now left with $6 down the drain, fine, but being left with $120 down the drain? No. I ended up loving it and committing to the $120 mold because I wanted quality for a hobby I'd be repeatedly doing with a mold that lasts me. No, imagine the same for kits. Imagine paying $80 for a Shockwave kit because you really like Shockwave, and you'll hate building it. You toss it to the side and you never finish it. You're now left with an unlikely chance to resell a half-built model and lost $80 for a trial period. That sucks. And it's just as likely that if someone enjoyed the AliExpress knockoff, they'd be more likely to invest in brand kits, knowing they love what they're doing and wanting to experience the real quality. And, the real looks, because let's be honest, knockoffs aren't really good at repeating what they're trying to copy. And if price is all that stops them from experiencing this and finding a hobby they really like, why shouldn't I show them an alternative? Now, with all this yappery, let's get back to the question at the start. Model kits, are they for you? In all honesty, that really depends on you. If you are willing to invest and you're fine with wait times during shipping, if you have patience, and if you really like fiddling with tiny pieces, then yeah, that's for you. I do think it's a fantastic hobby that can keep your mind numb and your hands busy for hours and leave you with a product to play with, to enjoy, to post neatly on your shelf as you fall deeper and deeper in model kit addiction. Oh god, they're everywhere. I mean, what? It is certainly a hobby that can be someone's greatest joy or someone's biggest nightmare, sort of like every hobby is. But me? I'd recommend it happily. If anything, I hope this video nudges at least a few people to pick it up and explore the world of Transformer model kits, or other model kits at that. I personally also really enjoyed the 30-minute mission max too. If you have any tips, tricks, or even model recommendations you want me to try building, let me know in the comments. If you want to yap to me more personally, my server is in the description, and with that I say adieu, for I have more model kits to build and figures to acquire. Have fun, stay safe, and see you soon!